Orange County are you from? And have you left at any point, or have you stayed there and lived in Orange County since you were born?
Yeah, so I was born in Newport Beach and then lived there up until my junior year of high school. So pretty like Newport Beach centered existence. And then my parents bought a home in San Clemente when I was a junior. So I actually had to be new my junior year of high school, it was a really weird
Wow.
experience too, because like it wasn't like we
Yeah.
moved to like Nevada or like Oregon, like, so, just somewhere like a new state. And I
Yeah.
had my driver's license. And so it was this like weird kind of like I had one foot left, back in Newport. But I did have a brief stint at Penn State, which was I lasted 6 months, and for like a million reasons, I ended up not wanting to go or like not wanting to stay there. And so I was at USC and then got a job at Oracle from USC, and so have lived basically in Southern California, Northern California, and then Pennsylvania for like 6 months. I don't even know if that counts.
I think it counts.
Yeah.
Why? Why did you go to
Why did I choose it?
Pennsylvania?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So in high school, I like just the biggest overachiever that you could think of. Like I did not party. I think I like made eye contact with like one boy one time. Like I was just not like I would say nerdy, but it's like I had friends, I had a social life, but I think I was just like pretty rigid and very like I'm gonna get good grades and I want to go to school. That's like like a good college. It's really all like it was all consuming. And I did play volleyball, so it was like, and I did clubs and stuff. So like
Yeah.
I don't want to paint myself as like a hermit, but it was
Yeah.
just very like one track minded. And I really just wanted to go to UCLA, and I applied to so many schools. I think it was like 11, and I got into every single school that I applied to except for UCLA. So I call it like an 18-year-old tantrum. Like I was like not I was just unwell. Like, and it was so
Yeah.
funny because my mom was trying to say like, and I got into other like UCs, like Cal State schools, like schools that were also good schools, just basically was not, you couldn't talk to me and you couldn't reason with me. Like I was
Yeah.
just like, that was kind of my first, I think, like big devastation of like, wow, I did all that. I worked that hard and I like didn't get to go somewhere I wanted to go. Like this sucks. And so I ended up talking so random. Like apparently I listened to a girl I barely knew. It was like my little sister's friend's older sister. She hyped up Penn State. And so it was one of the ones that I had applied to that was the farthest. So I
Okay.
in my delusion and just my like unwellness, I was like, I'm gonna go away. Like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go to UCI. I'm not gonna go to SDSU or like UCSB. Like, I'm not gonna go to any of these reasonable schools that like I would
Yeah.
also equally like and are equally as impressive. I'm gonna make my parents pay an out of state tuition to send me to a state college in Pennsylvania where it's negative degrees, where I don't know a single person. And that's the best choice. And it was interesting because I remember my mom like is just a really supportive person. And so she didn't want to tell me no, but she also
Hmm.
like gave reasons as to why, like all of these really clear, rational adult thoughts. And I was just like, no, I'm gonna go there. And it ended as you would think. Like I didn't party, right? So I didn't drink. And I was plopped into Amish country, Pennsylvania, where it's like the one of the major party schools. And I'm just like trying to be like a cool 18-year-old that's like never had a sip of alcohol and like sad.
I totally relate to that feeling of overachieving in high school, and like you don't even give yourself the opportunity to question what you're doing because at least in the environment that I was in and my interpretation of it, it felt like there was no other option. Like you have to do your
Right.
absolute best. You have to exceed in as many areas as possible because the only thing that's important is getting into the best college that you can get to. It has
Yeah.
to be elite, like
Right.
nothing but elite. And anything less than that, you have to have an excuse for it or something along those lines. And it's funny because it's all ego. I mean, like, obviously, education is valuable, but you can get a great education in many different places. And, like, obviously, network is
100%.
valuable, but you can also
Right.
build an incredible network in many different places. Those are things to consider, but 90% of it is ego. And I realized that when
Yeah.
I ended up going to Colorado, because I visited the different schools that I got into, and I like spent a weekend at each of them if I had a friend that went there. And all of them felt wrong. It was just like a feeling, or there was something that stood out like, ooh, I don't think I'm going to do well here. Like, this just
Right.
doesn't seem like my environment. And then when I was just walking on the campus at CU in Boulder, where Kelly
Uh-huh.
and I went, I was like,
Yeah.
this is it. This is it. I did this test where I would walk around the campus and I would smile at
Mhm.
people and I would see if they would smile back at me. And
How funny.
it's
That's just like,
I'm
how did you think of that at such a young age?
I don't know. I just was like
Funny.
wanting to connect with people. And I think that I went to my first tour and like thought that I would connect with people and didn't. And so then I started like noticing that that might not be a given everywhere I went. And so one of the schools that I toured that I thought I was certain about, I did that test and like no one looked at me. I was like completely invisible on campus. And I was like, wow, I thought that this was my number one school, but I feel like
Yeah.
shit. Like I don't feel
Yeah.
good here. This feels bad. A lot of people are like comparing academic programs. I wanted to have a good time.
You're just doing a vibe check.
I
Yeah.
was doing a vibe check, 100%.
Well, you know what's crazy? My mom, when I committed to Penn State prior to going to it. That's how delusional I
Oh,
was. And
wow.
when the first time that we went there, my mom and I were sitting at a Panera and I started bawling.
Oh,
And this was prior to going there. And my mom was like,
yeah.
"You can back out and go to a junior, like you can go to Saddleback. You do
Yeah.
not need to go here."
But there's
And
so much ego, which anyone listening, if you're going to college or if you're taking a job or if you're dating someone and you have that
yeah,
feeling,
just like
just
run.
walk away.
Also, like,
Because,
no knock to Penn State. Like, I feel like
right,
I've met people there that like that was their home, but I think
right.
it really was the partying aspect of it. Like
Yeah.
now I know how to have a good time. 18, I did not.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, to be totally transparent, the school that I toured where no one smiled at me was USC, where you had a great experience. And I know
Yeah, exactly.
many people who have had
Yeah,
wonderful experiences there, but it just like, it wasn't for me, you know? And
feel it
that's
sometimes.
okay. And thank
Yeah,
God, looking back on how everything played out, I was in the exact right place for me. And it was exactly what it's supposed to be. But you just get so clouded by like that environment that you're raised in. Do you think that for you, it was your community, like your broader community, or was it more so your family? Before when we talked a little bit about siblings and just, you know,
yeah,
the labels that are assigned to us by
yeah.
parents or by friends and how you start to associate with that identity and
Mhm.
then you don't really question it.
I have an older sister, and she was, I would say, like an average student, but she was on the dance team and we'd grown up like she was the dance. And my younger sister is just like Miss Social Butter. She was social. She was doing the thing with all the friends. My older sister had dance, and so like I just really their messaging was like, we never have to worry about you in school. And so I think I really took that and was like, oh, my parents value that I'm smart. I think I just made that my thing because I was like, that you're telling me that's my thing. That's the thing I'm getting all the praise and the positive feedback for. So like,
Yeah.
let's just dive in and really,
That's so
yeah,
funny. I've thought a lot about that because my family's similar. I think every family labels, if there's
yeah.
multiple kids, like everyone gets their category, you know?
Oh,
And my siblings also, like my parents were on top of my brother for sure.
mm.
He just
Oh
like
yeah.
has so many other interests. And so they were on top of him to focus academically because
Mhm.
that was not what he wanted to do. And I took that role on also as okay, I'll be self-motivated. I'll take care of
Right.
myself so that you don't have to worry about me. I'll get that done.
Yeah. Like I'm
Like
good. You can worry about him.
yeah, but
Yeah.
then the way that I found I could get attention was by overachieving in
Mhm.
everything. And so
Yeah.
like if I'm not going to get attention to get my shit done, then I'm going to get my attention this other way by pushing
Right.
myself beyond my bounds. And what I've come to realize in the last couple of years is like, I don't want to be the academic one. I don't want to be the smart one.
Right.
Like I put so much emphasis on the academic side that I really like stunted my creative growth and like
Yeah.
spiritual growth or whatever else I might have maybe what else might have balanced me more when I was
Mhm.
younger, you know? And it's just so funny how that can drive you for such a long time. And now I'm
Yeah.
31 years old and
Yeah.
I'm like, these past couple of years have been rediscovering that and like allowing myself to act like a kid in those areas and like
Yeah.
regrow that side and you know, reshape my life based on that. But those labels when you're a kid are I think that they're good. They obviously push you to
Mhm.
become, you know, a successful person in that category, most likely, but they can be so limiting. What did you think you wanted to do when you were a kid and you were like excited to be given that label?
When I said was lawyer, which I think is like, it's always like doctor, lawyer. And I think I just
Well,
like,
it was the time of Legally Blonde. I think we all wanted to be a lawyer.
that, yeah, and then it's so random, and it's weird saying it out loud, but, like, my family was obsessed with Law& and Order SVU, which,
Oh
like,
my
I don't
God,
love.
yes.
I, like, know the intro,
I
like,
can't
it's
watch it
my
anymore though.
fav No, it's really it's
It's
bad, and it's weird.
disturbing.
Disturbing, and, like, that's what I think is the funniest thing, like, my family, no joke, would sit around the couch and watch Law& and Order SVU together,
So
and
funny.
Law& and Order, but I don't know if, like, I just, like, didn't realize, like, that should be kind of awkward to watch with your mom, or, like, I don't even know, and, like, my sisters, but we loved it, and so I think because it just seems, like, really serious and a career that people were like, "Oh, you're a lawyer? Like, that's really cool, like, you must be really smart because you
Yep.
made it." Like, lawyer, doctor.
Impressive
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So if you were to kind of define your idea of success, it would probably be something that was a high paying, difficult job that not everyone could do, that
Right.
was
Yeah.
probably like a little bit do goody and people were impressed by.
And I would just say, like, yeah, like, people had to be like, one, you made a lot of money, you're, like, doing well,
Yeah.
and then also, like, oh, like, you must be smart. I think that was, like, the box I was trying to check, like, whatever you do, it had to be a job that someone was like, "Oh, wow, if you're doing that, you must be really smart." Because
Right.
that was all I wanted.
Right.
I wanted
Validate the
people to,
label.
yeah, validate that I'm smart. So, like, give me a job where I have to be smart.
What's funny is, so did you feel smart? Like, did you feel like you were the smart one?
No, and that's what's funny, and one time I made a comment, like, TMI, like, in a therapy session, I was like,
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I spend a lot of time, like, trying to seem smart,
Yes.
that, like, yeah, that, like, I don't actually, like, feel smart, and they were like, "No, like, in order to, like, people, you can't fake, like, doing well." Like, that was the comment back. They were like, "If you were getting the good grades, like, you were studying." And I think,
Yeah.
but I do think that circles back to, like, sometimes, like, natural, like, you're in natural intelligence versus, like, what you have to work towards. I think that's really what I think made me not feel smart. It just made me feel like a hard worker, was that, like,
Yeah.
I was constantly doing anything I could do to, like, achieve and,
Right.
like, take on,
Right.
but, like, it wasn't easy, and so I think because I
Right.
thought it wasn't easy, I wasn't smart.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. I relate to that so much. I thought
Yeah.
that I was pulling one over on everybody until like I was
Like, if
25.
they only knew.
No,
Yeah.
literally. And then I took this
Yeah.
test for years that was like, to me, in my mind, there was such a huge piece of me that was like, this is my final test, that if I can pass this, this is my stamp of approval. Like, I can officially say that this was a hard thing to do and that I'm smart. And even when I finished it, I was like, I just studied really hard. I just tried really hard. Like, it doesn't mean, like, I'm smart. I just studied.
That means you're smart. Like, if you can take in information. Even when I got my master's, I was like, well, that was easy, but, like, it was just an easy program. I'm like, no, it wasn't. Like, I got my master's.
Right,
Like,
exactly. But
yeah.
It's such a mind fuck. And then, like, in my own case, I don't want to speak for you, but I spent so much time and energy trying to prove that and get the validation. Like, I was seeking more important, quote unquote, impressive, quote unquote, jobs to validate that to myself, or to have others validate that back to me. I wanted someone else to say, like, okay, yeah, like, you passed the test, you checked the box, like, you can officially identify with that label of smart that people have placed on you, that you think you've been fooling everyone for your entire life.
Oh, it's a
Such
trip.
a mind fuck.
I know.
Just so everyone knows.
Yeah, you I guess we're both smart is the moral of that story.
I guess that's our takeaway.
Really
that's
try, yeah.
Or we need more therapy.
Yeah, right. Hard worker.
I know. But it's just, I think that labels are so funny. And I think it's so funny how long you can carry them with you. I think they're good. I think they're bad. I think they drive you and motivate you. And I think they hold you back and are limiting. Like, it's such an interesting thing. And there's no one takeaway, because, like, it plays a role in different aspects of your life, in the positive and in the negative. It just is what it is.
I was going to say, one time I told a therapist that I thought I had social anxiety, and she was like, and it was new. She kind of, like, smirked and was just like, where did you get that from? And I was like, I don't know. 'Cause, like, sometimes I'm nervous talking to people, but like, I mean, I think when it's to the root of it, I'm just always, I mean, I think I'm growing and doing better, but I'm constantly concerned about, like, what someone's perception of me is. And I think it was crippling back then. And so, like, I think I thought I had, like, I couldn't talk to people, but I'm like, when I look back, I'm
Yeah.
like, I have friends, like I can talk to them and like
Right.
I like talking to people. And I think social anxiety is like truly like being anxious, like forming friendships and forming connections and like having conversations. And that like gives me life. Like I
Right.
will
That is
talk to
not
you
you.
about anything all the time. And I feel pretty open bookish. And so it's like, it's funny that even like those
Right.
types of things, I'm like, I just think I always put myself in a box of labels of some sort.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found that that social anxiety too, because I've thought that, I've questioned that at
Yeah.
one point. We're very similar.
Are we the same?
I think so. But
Yeah.
I've questioned that at one point, and then I realized like I'm putting up a front. I'm doing overtime in this interaction with someone trying to portray a
Often.
certain image of myself. So no
Yeah.
wonder I'm stressed out because I'm like trying to like manipulate them into perceiving me in some way. Like that's hard work. I'm tired
It's hard. You're tired. Yeah.
and it's like hard to keep up with the story and like you're thinking about what you're saying before you actually say it. And the more I think that the more I let go of trying to be someone that I'm not, obviously, and then surrounding myself with people who feel good. It's
Yeah.
it's about not playing some sort of role, you know? And then all of that dissipates as soon as you're willing to let go of that role and just show up. And if
Yeah.
they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. And I do come across people that I still feel uncomfortable with and I,
Oh, yeah.
feel not good enough around or whatever it is. But at least now I know maybe there's something else there and that's not a me thing all the time.
Right.
I'm willing to look at it, but like now I know I'm showing up as me and if I'm still not feeling good, we just might not jive. And like
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, that's just the way it is with people. Like
I think too, like, it seems like we have similar where like I think the best thing that ever happened to me was like learning that like not everyone has to like you and
yeah.
there could be no reason. Like there was like I
Mhm.
think someone it was like the 80-20 rule where it's like 80% of people will like you and like understand who you are and 20% for no reason and no fault of your own will just find you annoying.
Yeah.
And that was like the most like okay, cool. So like out of my control, 20% of the people I interact with, just I'm not for them. And
Yeah.
I should be fine with that.
Okay, so let's go back to USC really quick. I
Yeah.
love our tangents, by the way.
Yeah.
More of them, please. But so you transferred from Penn State to
Yeah.
USC,
Yeah.
and it hadn't been on your radar before, but it sounds like in retrospect, you're pretty happy that you ended up going to USC. And you were
Yeah.
interested in PR, but like not really exactly sure what you wanted to do at this point. I think the Law and Order SVU criminal justice ship
Yeah.
had sailed, and you'd learn a
That
little more
totally
about
failed.
yourself. So, what were you thinking you would study and you would maybe come out of school doing?
I couldn't go my freshman year. I had to do one, like so I had to do a semester at my junior college, which was like soul crushing. Like moved at home, I moved back, and then I was just ferociously like, how do I get out of here? And it's
Mhm.
so funny because USC is some people's dream school and a school that a lot of people would die to go to. And I say in like kind of a almost like embarrassed way that like I wanted to go there because it's gonna get me out faster.
Mm.
Um and just like I think there was still that like, this is a school I can transfer to that has like some prestige, which because I'm still in that box, I'm still like I made a really, really bad mistake and I'm so miserable. And I'm so sad that like, at 18, 19, I already feel like a failure that like I need to get myself somewhere where people like think is good again. And so
Mhm.
that was kind of the main motivation for going there. And but then I just stuck with PR because I think in my head it was like I've already taken like 18 left turns that, like I've taken so many pivots. Like I can't now go to a new school and have a new interest. And I really didn't even know. It is a lot of pressure, I think, on, kids that teenagers to just be like, what do you want to do? And like it has to be something that you're like eating, sleeping, breathing, thriving in. And so I loved learning about PR, but I did a lot of internships. Like I interned like at Soho House. I interned at this place called Gen Art. Like I did fun things, but I just think like I still at that point, like it was more just kind of like, this is a cool story. Like, oh, I'm at these places, I'm doing these things, but like I didn't really like feel fully fulfilled. And I don't even think I knew what
Mm.
that meant. It just felt really cool and like a really positive thing to be a part of. And I think thinking back to that like hardworking part, like I thrived there. Like I made friends. Like I really enjoyed being there and doing what I was doing. But I think I am just someone that like no matter what environment like I'm put in, I refuse to be bad at it. it was not checking any boxes for me, but I was just like,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to be the best at whatever I'm doing. So like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
that was kind of where I was at. And so randomly Oracle happened, which was my first job out of college. I was at like a career fair at USC, and it was
Yeah.
at my senior year. And I was just like, this sucks. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know like where I want to be. And I was just talking to anything that sounded cool, exciting, successful, interesting. So it was this crossover where like the job was selling like social media related software. And so it was kind of like a consulting, but like it also was like sales. But I ended up interviewing, and like that was what I got. And I just didn't really have any other options. And of course, being the person that I was never going to move home and like figure it out. I
Right.
think that, and I think I carried a lot of like, not shame, but just embarrassment of like, I can't make another failure. Like I already chose the wrong college. My mom was nice enough to like help me pivot and support me through that. But like, I can't be disappointing again because I already was
Mm.
disappointing. I have to now do something that's bigger. And like, this has to have amounted to something. And so that's kind of where I was at when I moved up there, because it was just this, I have to do something good, you know?
Yeah. Like you said, plop you down in any environment, you're going to be the best you possibly can be. So
Right.
were you doing pretty well at Oracle? Like how are things going?
They put us in a role that essentially like you used to have like 5 years of experience. So there was like a huge learning curve where we were all kind of just like figuring it out together. But like I learned how to like cold call. I learned how to like do all the things, like make the presentations, and as usual, like really went like full force into it. And then if you do any legwork, you get attached to deals. So I ended up working on a deal that was like the biggest deal that they had had. I think it was like Q3 or something. So like I not only like I was winning a award, like I won an award. Like I didn't just like go there
Wow.
and like it was kind of it. Like I got, and it was like money I had never seen in my life. Like I had like a job as a hostess, like like $10 an hour here and there. But I think I got like that deal specifically. I think it was like 10 to 12K commission, and I was just like, oh my god, like what is this? Like people make money doing things like this, like, and I don't know, it was really trippy because I again like wasn't passionate about it. It was really just like uh, I think I'm just so used to overworking and like not even knowing if I'm enjoying it, but putting everything I had into it. And then of course the dangling carrot, well cool, you got an award, well cool, you made money, so like therefore you have to be happy, because what else is there in terms of success? You got put in an environment that you should like because it's impressive and it sounds cool, and not only did you do that, but you did it well. So like you really can't have anything to complain about. And I think I'm someone like that internalizes a lot. And so it was just like I almost didn't, it took me like such a long time to even realize how miserable I was in that,
Mm.
because I was just, I'm not allowed to be miserable.
Right.
Cause like
Right.
there's
Yeah.
what else you can't, what is there to complain about?
Right, right.
You know?
So, how did that feeling of misery show up for you? Like what did you start noticing about yourself
Yeah.
and your life, and then what was your come to Jesus?
Being really like apathetic, having thoughts of like, if I don't show up to this job tomorrow, someone will come in my place, and the same things will happen. It was this like weird reflection of purpose of like, I what I'm doing doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And I don't care that this pharmaceutical company now has the ability to listen to what people are saying about them on Twitter, because I don't care. And like I guess maybe that just makes them more money, but like what am I doing as a whole for myself, for society? Like when I die, like will people be like, well, she sold a lot of social relationship management software? Like I was having those moments, but I wasn't really like talking about it to anyone. And I wasn't really like expressing that. But then it was like, what do you even want to do? And it wasn't like immediate, the teaching thing, which is so interesting because I always have loved that type of role. I did a lot of stuff when I was younger, working with children, like being like volleyball coaches, like church camp type things. Like I did a lot that where it put me in leadership roles. But my mom actually paid for me while I was working at Oracle. I took, because I was like, maybe I could be a real estate agent. And in my head, I'm like, purpose. Like giving family homes. Like that's still a job where people
Selling it
make
to
money.
yourself.
My mom paid for it because she's just such a homie. She was just like, whatever will make you happy. Like I'm going to support you and help you. Like you just got to tell me. I did mention to her, well, I think teaching. And her first reaction, which is so funny, is like, well, I think you'd be really good at that. Well, what does that look like? Because I had never, like, I'd thought about being a teacher and I had expressed it, but it got quashed really quickly because a lot of the conversation about it was like, well, you're smarter than that. Like, and it's so, it makes me so angry because I still to this day, people act like if you teach kindergarten, you only have to be like as smart as a kindergartner, or like if you teach first grade. And I'm like, hi, first grade is actually the hardest grade in the entire world. You're teaching kids how to read. You have to be so educated to understand and like define where a kid is maybe needs more intervention and like reinforcement. So it does make me mad because I think it was deep down in there, but it was kind of just, oh, well, you're better than that. And I think just, of course, that was like, yeah, I am better than that. So like, I'm not doing that.
Well, and what's interesting about when people say you're better than that, I think what they're meaning to say is you can make more than you would make.
More money.
More
Yeah.
money. You can make more money than you would
You
make
can be more
doing something
successful. Yeah.
else with less
Right.
work, probably too. I mean, teaching's
Yeah.
hard as hell.
Yeah.
And so it's like you can make a lot more money doing something else because we are used to defining success, or we're used to being incentivized by money, but not everyone is money motivated.
So that was just, I was really discouraged when it was more school. But what's so crazy, and I do feel like full circle, is I was pretty frugal with the money I was making commission wise from Oracle. And I ended up not going into any more debt because I paid with my commission from Oracle. I paid for my credential program.
Love
So it
that.
was, yeah.
Love
So
a
I
full
think
circle moment.
it was kind of cool in that way. But then, so I went home and I was so just like, okay, wait, I got to do something. And so I kind of leveraged the USC network and I got a job pretty quickly at a restaurant and hospitality PR company because in my head, I was like, what if I was wrong? Like, what if it's just not the right environment and I didn't make a mistake? I just need to be, it's I'm homesick. I even started backtracking. I had traction of make this life change. And then the gravity of how big a life change it was started stopping me. And so I did, I think it was like 3 months. I worked, it was part-time. I commuted from San Clemente to LA, which was insane,
Wow.
to work at this company. And they hired me on part-time. And then I was doing really well and they offered me a full-time job. And it was so funny because like, while I was at this job, I was Googling like, what like, scores do you need on this to get into this program for teaching? And so it was like, even at that point, I think I just wanted to, like, if anyone asked, it's like, oh, I'm not at home. And I'm like, I'm figuring it out. I'm going to move to LA. I think I just needed some sort of cover story to like feel like I was doing something instead of give myself any sort of time breath moment to feel anything other than like, I'm embarrassed. And so then I quickly quit that. And then I got a job as an aide at an elementary school in Irvine and I loved it. And it was so crazy because it was just like, I was doing like reading interventions, which doesn't sound fun. And I didn't even know at that point, like what that meant. It was like almost this little spark where like I had never even been in a credential program. I didn't even know what I was doing, but it's just such an energy surge of like kids have like all this energy and like they have so many like needs and they love you and they want to talk to you. And then, but then you're also like doing something and then like day to day, like you actually like can track like what you're doing and how you're helping them. And I think that was that like missing piece where I was like, wait, on Monday, you didn't know what a long E was, and Friday you do. And like, I did that. And it's like a weird thing, but it's like, dang, I love this. And so that was kind of like the impetus of just like wholeheartedly like diving into like becoming a teacher.
Right. And it sounds like you didn't really get over the embarrassment of wanting to change into teaching, switch into teaching until you got that feeling, until you were actually doing it. But you just had to kind of blindly follow your gut, even though you were embarrassed, until you had a new feeling in your body to replace that feeling of embarrassment almost, or to like counterbalance that feeling of embarrassment, where then you could say, oh, now I can hang on to this thing that, wow, feels really good. And I can put words to it and I can feel it in my body. Like now I can compare that to the embarrassment that I was feeling, but you wouldn't have gotten that feeling of like inspiration and excitement unless you had just acted through the embarrassment anyways. I'm curious though, for how long did you say, oh, maybe teaching, like teaching sounds interesting, and people were giving you that feedback of you're too smart for that? Like, did you say that when you were younger, or did you say that while you were at Oracle or maybe in school?
Younger, and I don't think like elementary, because I think lawyer was pretty like the
Yeah.
dominant thing, but I think it would be like towards like middle school, high school, because
So
I
funny.
remember loving, I did like junior spikers volleyball club was this club at in Huntington Beach, and I got a job there coaching, and I coached like young, very young, like K1 aged kids. And it was this like pleasantly chaotic thing that I just like loved. And I did it like several summers, but I didn't really even equate it. Like it was kind of just like, well, I like that, but it was like that can't be my career. And then it's like if I ever
Right.
let that be a thought, then it was like, well, no, you're gonna do this. Like, oh, well, no, like you're smart. So like why would you do that? And so it was almost like never really ever fully it didn't even come to the surface. I think I remember like one of my sister's ex-boyfriends, I think, had said a comment or something where it literally verbatim was like, you're too smart to do that one. That was like the one that like gutted me, where I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that basically people think like if you're a teacher you're not smart. Okay,
Right.
noted. Like that's just the stereotype, and I can't
Right.
pick a career that has that stereotype, even if it's not true, which is not true in
No.
more ways than I can ever express. And it's
Yeah.
sad that that is even widely thought enough to be a stereotype. But like it was just that. It was really
Which
just like,
again, I don't think it's even about intellect, because I feel like, I mean, I could be totally wrong. I just feel like there's so much respect for teachers and it's difficult. And anyone who's ever been around a kid knows how challenging it is to teach a kid anything. Like
yeah,
it requires a lot of intellect. I just think that smart is equated with money and teaching is not equated with a high paying job.
that's crazy because like I mean, it's a super pivot of just like paying teachers and like their expertise and all of these things. But
Yeah.
the grass is like, like that phrase, like the grass isn't greener. Like obviously there's aspects about it that still bug me,
Right.
but like I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I
Right.
think that like along the way, no matter what you end up doing or no matter what like feels right to you, it's not getting rid of those stereotypes or those things. It's just understanding that like they exist, but it cannot impact you doing what you know you need to do. And anyone
Right.
that thinks that is probably not someone that like I would care to be around.
Right.
If you have that opinion of teaching, then I don't really there's not a lot I could connect with you on, because like
Yeah.
I'm not interested in having that dialogue with you, because there's a
Right.
lot of jobs that pay a lot of money that arguably are not as important, and not like you don't have to be as smart to do them. So
Right.
like you can't equate what someone gets paid to like their aptitude.
Totally. I can tell that you're incredibly passionate about what you do and you're obviously in the right place doing the right thing. So, how does it feel to be in that result?
So many things that like make me just like happy to be at work, but I think something that I struggle with currently is like I've always been on the path of like, well, what do I want to do? And it's like
Mhm.
now that there's nothing that I'm like working towards, I think someone that has like always been on this hamster wheel of like success and this and that, like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, would I want to be like an AP or a toaster or this or that? And I'm
Right.
like, do I want to be that? Because I love what I do. And so I think right now I'm actually currently like analyzing like, do I want to ever like look at like what else there is in education within the school setting that's like maybe like higher up, because I'm passionate about that, and like that would be more something that I would do like at the 20-year mark or something like that. Or do I think that because even still I'm
Yeah.
resorting back to like old stereotypes of like, oh well, I'm here and I've done this and I feel so great, but like it's almost like, can I just like post? Like is that an
Right.
existence that like you're
Right.
allowed to have, where you're just happy and you are doing what you want to do, but you're not working towards anything? Like it's a really unknown feeling to
I
me.
love that though. That
Yeah.
is a scary feeling, I'm sure. And as a society, I think that most people are pushing each other, pushing themselves to ask, like, well, what's next? What's next? What's next? But we're allowed to just enjoy what we're doing and
Yeah.
enjoy the stage that we're at. And that might change in the future and it might not. And it's okay to just feel peace. Like it's okay to be still. But I think we're so afraid of stillness.
It is cool in teaching though. Like I think in a lot of jobs there might be this nature of like maybe you feel like stale, but I think I've never felt that way with teaching, because you can keep your same job, but you can like do something different
Yeah.
within that job, if that makes sense. Like I moved from first grade to fourth grade. Every year you have to kind of like figure out the ecosystem of your classroom and how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. And something that we
Yeah.
talked about really briefly when we first met was um, still kind of comparing yourself at times. What boxes did they check that you used to ascribe to and maybe you
Right.
don't anymore? And kind of think about different directions that you have taken or could take, et cetera, et cetera. And so something that we really briefly talked about was those labels and how your
Yeah.
sisters like kind of grew into their own identities and
Mhm.
comparing yourself to the different paths that they took. Also, just like to remind everyone that it's normal to have those thoughts and it doesn't
Totally.
mean that you're on the wrong path. So I'd love to hear
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you
yeah.
shared with me about that.
So it's crazy because like everyone in my family is like successful. And like granted too, I think there's like two layers to that because both my sisters are married and they both have very successful husbands. So like my little sister is married to a lawyer, and then my older sister is married to a man that does like data analytics for DoorDash. And so it's like very well paying job. So already like with just spouse, like they're doing really well. And then they're also successful in their own right. So there's just moments where it's like, and like they never make me feel that way. It's
Right.
completely self-imposed. But
Always.
like, and it's like looking at like my sister's wedding was just glamorous and gorgeous and beautiful, and like both of their weddings, and like sometimes like the things that they can buy and do, and like those types of experiences, like of course, like there's no way that you could be like, like that's okay. Like I didn't want to have that cute, purse anyway. But like I think I try to like remind myself and just rationalize like like they're happy and I'm happy for them, but like I wasn't happy when I did something like that. So like
Right.
like, and it's like that's kind of that balance of like you too could go back and leverage the things that you've done and go get a job like they're doing, and you could have that money, but you didn't like that and you were miserable. And so what's going to get you up in the morning? Like, do you want a Louis Vuitton bag or do you want to love your job? Like,
Yeah.
and it's great. Like some people have both and that's great, but like that just wasn't what like you can't will yourself to be happy. And I think like that was my biggest takeaway. It was like I had to figure out like what was going to make me the most content and what was going to make me
Right.
feel the best. And like
Right.
I love what I'm doing every day. If I go home and I look on Instagram and someone's in Fiji and in like a luxury villa, yeah, like that's cool. Like sign me up maybe one day, but like it doesn't make what I did any less cool or successful or fulfilling, because like those things are just like they come and go. But like I'm not going to spend 30 years of my life doing something that I hate so that I could have things that like maybe might make me happy, but like maybe not also.
Temporarily. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's
I,
also funny too because like I have coworkers who also like everyone's financial situation is different. So like
right.
I have like coworkers who are both teachers and well off a number of reasons, whether it's like generational wealth, family, or like spouses. And so like it's even in my own space where sometimes it's
Yeah.
like cool, like they get to do what they like to do and they get to do those things. Like, you know what I mean? But that's just life. Like you can't, I think you just make yourself crazy if you sit
Totally.
and compare and think about what you don't have and not think about all the things that you do. Because I will tell myself my mom is I think the sole reason why I try to make myself feel this way. But it's like a lot of the messaging that she gave me like throughout the years and still is just like someone would kill to have the life that you have, like, and
Hmm.
you have to remember that, like, as miserable as you are, as unhappy as you are, like there is someone out there that would kill to have what you have and do what you do, and you cannot take that for granted because
Yeah.
they would trade with you in a heartbeat and you'd probably be not okay. So you
Yeah.
know yeah.
Yeah. I love that perspective. And I also love that you remind yourself that it's a choice that you made to value happiness and fulfillment and that inspiration that you feel in your work over the money that you could make at another job, a job that you had, that you've experienced already and you could go back to any day, but you're making that choice every day. And it's just, I think it changes everything when you take ownership for your decisions and you take that personal responsibility and accountability for your life into consideration. As a teacher, obviously you're talking to kids about their futures and
Yeah.
education and like teaching them maybe how to set goals for themselves, whether it be like in the classroom throughout the year, in their lives. How do you talk to them about higher education and then career?
Yeah, I think I kind of let them lead a lot of the conversations and just not putting any sort of emphasis on like, oh, that's a great job or like that's a cool job. But it's really crazy to see because they already naturally do it. And it's like having gone through this experience, it is crazy to see because I we did in fourth grade, I haven't done it yet this year, but we do something called like an informative jobs paper where the only requirement is we say research a job that you think you'd be interested in
Mm,
and write, like just write about it, like learn about it and tell us like what are the steps to get there? Like, and we don't even say like what's the salary.
yeah.
So many of them put a lot of emphasis on salary, a lot of them lawyers, doctors, like, and it's weird. It's this weird full circle thing where I think a lot of parents just like unknowingly like talk about success in a way where it's like you need to get a job, you need to go to college, you need to do this to get money. And I mean, half my class were boys and they all want to be NBA players. And that like, but again, it's like that is a, you know, a very sought after career where you make a lot of money. And a lot of the conversations was like, oh, bro, like his, you know, his contract was like 89 million. And I'm just like, and no, really no one that I can think of picked something that was like that I would deem a stereotypical, like low paying job. And I do think that, and I didn't think it was my like I'm not out here to try to like crush your dreams. If you want to be a lawyer, I'm not out here being like you should be a teacher.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of the conversations that I had, like when I was helping them write it, I said, think about like what you like how that would make you feel. Like if you know like, if you're going to work or you're doing these things, like how are you impacting people? How are you helping people? And there were kids that kind of like struggled to like one kid literally was just like, I want to be a CEO. And I was like, well, what does that mean to you? Like, what is a CEO? And like they really didn't have any other thoughts about it other than I'm sure at one point your parents told you like you need to be a CEO of a company, but like they didn't even know what that meant. We really do make kids think that like the only definition of success is money, like from a really early age, because they came to me that way. And I tried, you know, to just like foster dialogue and conversations.
Yeah.
But I also think like I'm pretty firm in like the way that I run my class is like I'm not there to tell them how to think. I'm not here to tell
Yeah.
them like what to think. I'm just here to kind of like lead them. And like kids are so powerful in the way that like they're just like accessing like their way through life, almost balancing like what all these adults in their life are saying, what the messaging that they get, you know, on like the internet and all of these things. Like it's wild when you are alone in a room with 9-year olds that are comfortable sharing things with you, like what
Yeah.
like their perception of life is and
Yeah.
how sometimes you just want to shake them and be like, you'll know when you're 30, like it gets better, I promise. Like, you know.
Well, they're so lucky to have you because I think a lot of people are never asked those questions that you just
Yeah.
said you repeat to them through that exercise. And
Mhm.
you never know how it's going to impact them. They might, you know, completely write it off and just finish the assignment and move on with their lives. But like that might be internalized in some way and it might
Yeah.
pop back up into their subconscious down the line, or it might have a direct impact on them right in that moment. So I think it's really important that you're having somewhat of a conversation and even prompting them to do that exercise and then
Yeah.
just offering questions like you said, not telling them what to do, what's right, what's wrong,
Mhm.
but just asking a question so that they can explore it themselves. I think that's really, really interesting. I have one final question for you. If
Yeah.
you were bouncing back to or talking to the version of yourself that left Penn State, was at home, going to USC, and just one track mind, didn't want to mess up again. You know, you considered it messing up at the time, and
Mhm.
you were going on that PR path and then took the job at Oracle. If you were talking to someone who's in that same position or kind of like on that same track, what's something that you might share with them having now experienced what you've experienced?
I think just like not like sitting in the misery and talking to people that you like value their opinion or even just people that like make you feel good and just like doing it and going for it. I think you can get so bogged down by the what ifs to the point that it's paralyzing. And I know I did that to myself and it took my mom being supportive of it and like people that I talked to, like friends kind of being like, "Oh, that's different, but like, yeah, like you'll be good at it." And like I just kind of like took the leap. And who's to say, I mean, like that might not be the best advice because someone might be discouraging, but I think just really like not allowing yourself to think about the what ifs, because like still to this day I could sit and think about, well, oh, if I stayed at Oracle, like maybe I'd own a home right now, or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you will forever go crazy if you second guess things. And I think like I just always like I think when you feel it, you feel it. Like that's going to that aiding position and just being like, I like this, like listen to that. Because also
Yeah.
like you could try it and you could not like it. And I think just like there's no shame in trying. I think that would be the biggest takeaway. There's no shame in trying something and rerouting and failing. And whether that's one time going to Penn State or two times, you know, choosing the wrong job, like you just have to keep trying because like it's so sad to be miserable. Like life is
Yeah.
too short to be unhappy. And I think you hear a lot of these stories of like, I did this career change at like 60, or like someone that goes back to college at like warm-hearted, like, oh, that's cute. But you always think it like can't be you because like you've done something for too long. You know, like that was my
Yeah.
mindset. Like, well, I was like I went to college for this. And it's like, how could I like I've already been at this for 4 years now. Like I can't choose something else. Like because something else is just not in the cards, you know, like
Yeah.
you have to allow yourself to think it's like possible because it is, you know.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
And the what ifs are always fear. It's
They're
just
never
fear.
not there. Like they are literally
Right.
at every step of the way. And I think that like that's because I think someone that might like change a career path and then like they're in it and they like aspects of it, but they might see something that kind of pulls them back in that feeling of like, oh my gosh, like what if I didn't do this? Like I even there and there's still like I'm human. Like because one of my friends that I started with at Oracle, I was just in her wedding and like she transitioned from Oracle. She kills it, is like a manager, like still stayed in the tech space and like owns a home in Redondo Beach and is just like a total boss babe. And it's just one of those things. My millennial is showing my boss babe, but it's fine. But like, you know what I mean? And so it's like sometimes I'm like, you know what? Like would I be there? But then it's like, no, because she loved it and you
Right.
didn't, you
Yep.
know? And so like she's happy because she followed the path that she was meant to be on, but like you wouldn't be her because you didn't like that.
Yeah.
You
Totally.
know?
And you can't fake passion. You can't fake inspiration. Like
can't.
it shows and people can see it, whether you think you're doing a good job acting or not.
Totally. Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for teaching our youth. I want you to be my niece's teacher and my nephews.
Send her over.
Oh my gosh, we should all move to California. Hey, me again. It would mean the world to me if you could click follow or subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this conversation. That just shows me that you like what I'm putting out and it's good karma. So just click that one little button and it really truly means the world to me. Okay, thanks. Have a great day.